Okay, so now in this introductory video, we'll go ahead and see how we can use some of these built-in financial functions in Google Sheets. Okay, and it'll be useful for us to make sure that we understand how these things work so that it'll be easier for us to understand the subsequent content. So by now we have gone ahead and done a variety of different calculations. So we can do these calculations either using mental math, right? But that's normally only feasible for really easy calculations and when we are dealing with round numbers like 1, 5, 10, or something like that, okay? When you're dealing with numbers which are not so clean, like let us say 12.3, it's not easy to do the mental math, okay? So one can always go ahead and draw a timeline. So basically show all the years and then show all the values in across all those different years. And then one can also use the formulas to do that. But what we would do throughout the session is basically use spreadsheets. So why is that? The reason is one, it's quick if we know how to, enter the values and enter the formulas. Second, it's accurate. Okay, so the Google Sheet calculations are accurate. So we don't have to worry about making mistakes. And in my view, what is really, really crucial is if we ever get stuck at any point, we can very simply Google, how can I do whatever type of calculation using Google Sheets? And then you will get like 500 million videos that will show you exactly step by step how you can enter all those values and do whatever calculations you want to do. Okay. And of course, we are going ahead and doing several of those illustrations here in class too. So we're going to go ahead and focus mainly on using Google spreadsheets. Okay. So let's take an example. So let us suppose that you're going to invest $100 today. If you think you're going to get a 10% interest every year, how much will you have at the end of 2 years? Now, we're going to go ahead and use Google Sheets, but I will show you how we can enter formulas in these to do these types of calculations. And we'll also see how we can use these built-in financial formulas in Sheets. And as we said before, we are going to be focusing on these 5 financial formulas: the PV function, the FV function, the rate function, the payment function, and the number of periods function. Okay? So let's go ahead and see what these 5 financial formulas or 5 financial functions mean. PV simply means present value. So that's a value at the start of whatever time period we're looking at. And I'll show you with an example what we mean when we say it's the start of the period. Okay? Future value is the value at some point of time later on. So that is the value at the end of whatever period we're looking at. The rate, it's basically the rate that we are going to pay, rate of interest we're going to pay, the rate of interest we will earn, or the growth rate. Okay? And this is the rate that we'll earn or we'll pay per period. And this payment is the amount of the regular payments. So you can think of this as an annuity type payment, okay? So the same amount that's going to be paid every year over this entire period. And this NPER is basically the number of periods that are in our investment horizon that's stated in the question, or whatever is the scenario we are looking at. Okay. So remember this example? So we did this earlier. So we said, hey, an item cost $33.5 5 years back, and the price is doubling every year. Can we calculate the cost now? So this picture that we drew here, so this is a timeline. So I need to find the value now, right? So I'm calling that year 0. I have the value 5 years back, so I need to go back in time 5 years. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years back. And I know the value here was 33.5. I needed to find the value here, so we knew that the value is going to be 1072, right? We already did the calculation. So in this kind of a calculation, what are these 5 values? All right, so the PV is the value at the start. So this is where it is starting. So this amount is now your PV. So this 33.5 is the value at the start of whatever time period we are looking at. So that's your PV. Okay. What is the FV? We said that's going to be the value at the end of whatever period we are looking at. Okay. So now let's go to this timeline again. So at the end of the period, so this 1072 was our future value, okay, which is what we wanted to calculate. Then what is my R? The rate. It's basically the rate at which we are going to earn some return, or we're going to pay an interest, or it's the growth rate. So in this case, because it's doubling every year, so that growth rate was 100%. Number of periods, so I can go back here. So that is the NPER. So in this problem, there are 5 time periods. So that's 1 year, 2 years, 3, 4, and 5 years. So the NPER equals 5. What is this PMT? So that is the amount of regular payments like an annuity. And in this question, there were no regular payments that we were considering. So the payment would be 0. So these are the 5 key values that we have to keep in mind when we are using all of these financial functions. And for each one of these values, Google Sheets has a financial function, which are called these, that will help us do the calculation. Okay. So now let us see let us see this application for our problem here. Okay. So our question was, hey, supposing we are investing $100, we expect to get a 10% interest per year. How much will we have after 2 years? So that's what we want to calculate. Okay. Now, one of the things that we should keep in mind when we do all of these financial calculations is that when we're talking about money, there are basically 2 scenarios. Either you can get the money, in which case you're receiving money, so that's good for you. So we can enter that as a positive number, or you're going to be paying some amount, in which case you're paying the money. And in most cases, when we pay some money, we are not so happy, right? So that's kind of the input as a negative number because it's decreasing your bank balance. Now, in all of finance, and this is an important concept to keep in mind, there is no free lunch. That means there is no money machine in this entire world that anyone has invented or discovered whereby you will get money today and you will get money all the time in the future. Okay? That kind of a money machine does not exist. The flip side of that argument is in all financial decisions, you only have 2 scenarios. Okay? Either you're going to be buying something now, but if you're buying something now, you have to pay some money. That means that's the negative. And you're going to hope that you will get some kind of money in the future, which will be a positive. But you can see you don't have a positive inflow both now and in the future. Okay? Or what is the other scenario? I can borrow some money. Okay? If I'm borrowing money, what happens? I'm going to get some money in. So that's a plus. But I have to repay the loan in the future. So that's an outflow. That's negative. So what you can see is literally all the decisions that we make in finance, you're not going to have money both today and all times in the future. All right. So that kind of a money machine does not exist. So when we enter all these values in Google for finance examples, we have to have a good understanding of, am I getting more money now? In which case is increasing my bank balance, input it as a positive number. Or are you actually paying money now? So it's reducing your bank balance, in which case you will enter it as a negative number. Okay. So now let's go ahead and look at this example again. So we are going to invest $100. We expect to get 10% interest per year. How much will we have after 2 years? Okay. So what is it that we want to calculate? I want to find out how much money will I have after 2 years. Okay. So now I can go back to my 5 values here And what I really want to find out is how much will it be worth at the end of 2 years from now. So that means I have to calculate this future value. So I will use this FV function. Okay. So let's go ahead and see how that would work. Okay. So we have that here. So I'm going to use the FV function. So what am I doing right now? I'm going ahead and investing $100 in the bank, right? So that money is going away. So that's a minus 100. Okay. Are there any regular payments? No, because I'm only making this investment right now of $100. So payments are zero. For how many periods am I making that investment? 2 periods. So I'm going to input 2 here. And what rate am I earning? I'm earning 10%. So I'm going ahead and putting 0.1 here. Okay. And I'm using this FV function. And you can see that gives me the future value as 121. Now, why did I enter the numbers in this order? So the reason is when I look at the finance function here, this is basically the syntax. All right. So when I'm using the FV formula, the first number I have to enter is the rate. So in the example that we are talking of, you're going to get a 10% return. 10% means 10 divided by 100. So that is 0.1. So that is why in my Sheets formula here, the first value was a 0.1. Okay. What is the next input? The next input is the number of periods. And the number of periods we are investing for is 2 years in this example. So what did I input as my second value? So you can see here. The second value that I input was basically a 2, right? Number of years. Okay. What is the third input? Third input is any payment amounts. That's my PMT. But here there are no intervening payments like an annuity. So that is 0. So you can see the third input is a 0. What is the fourth input? So the fourth input is basically the present value. So what happens now? I'm going ahead and investing $100. If I'm investing, that means I'm basically giving that money away. Giving that money away, your bank balance is going to be lower. So that's a negative number. Okay. All right. So I'm going ahead and inputting minus 100 for my present value. So if I invest $100 now, the future value is 121, and keep in mind that's a positive number. So what that is basically telling you is that is how much you will get. So that's an inflow after 2 years. Now I could change this example by arguing or by saying that, hey, what happens if instead of investing today, you're borrowing? Okay. So what happens if you're borrowing? The only thing that changes is at time 0, which is now, you're getting the money in. So that becomes a plus 100. And then you can see the future value that we calculate ends up being negative. Why? Because if you borrow today, you have to repay the loan in 2 years. When you repay the loan, you're going to be paying money. That's an outflow. Okay. So this is basically how we can use a lot of these built-in functions. So in the coming sessions, we will go ahead and work through several more such examples, and hopefully things will get clearer. But we will go ahead and assign some problems for you to work on, and we'll also show you the solutions there so you can get more practice with using Google Sheets going forward.